Imagine a tiny capsule that can turn your brain into a high-performance machine, sharpening memory, increasing focus, and making you feel 10 steps ahead of everyone else. Sound too good to be true? It should, because the reality is far more complex. Here's a shocking statistic. Nearly 30% of students in top universities report using cognitive enhancers regularly, and Silicon Valley executives are paying up to $25,000 per year for personalized nootropic regimens. Yet most of the public has no idea what these substances actually contain or how they work. The multi-billion-dollar cognitive enhancement industry operates largely in regulatory shadows, with many users gambling with substances that have never been properly tested for long-term effects. But what if everything you've heard about smart drugs is based on a carefully constructed myth? What if the real power, or more concerning, the hidden dangers of these brain boosters, is something researchers are only beginning to understand? The truth about cognitive enhancement is far more complicated than most people realize, and what I'm about to reveal might completely change how you think about the human brain's potential and limitations. The cognitive enhancement revolution isn't coming, it's already here, operating silently among the highest echelons of academia, technology, and finance. By the end of this video, you'll discover why one of the most hyped smart drugs on the market has never actually improved cognition in any major clinical trial, despite manufacturer claims of 20% cognitive improvement. You'll also learn which over-the-counter supplement was originally developed as an anti-aging treatment for Russian cosmonauts during the 1970s space race, and why it's now quietly banned in parts of Europe following 3 controversial case studies. We'll reveal the surprising brain-altering effects of a common prescription drug that Wall Street traders have nicknamed Blue Rocket Fuel, which doubled trading profits in a confidential industry study while causing concerning side effects in 42% of users. Plus, we'll expose how some so-called natural nootropics are harvested using methods that would make you question everything about their safety, including one popular ingredient sourced from environmentally protected regions through black market channels. Most shockingly, you'll find out which brain booster is being tested by military agencies and classified programs to potentially rewrite how soldiers make decisions under pressure, with preliminary results showing a 35% faster response time in simulated combat scenarios. Each of these revelations opens a deeper mystery about how far we should go in enhancing the mind artificially, and who really stands to benefit from this brain-boosting gold rush. And just wait until you hear about the Silicon Valley billionaire who secretly tested an experimental compound on his entire executive team without their knowledge. Let's start with what most people think they know about nootropics. You've probably heard names like Modafinil, alpha-GPC, or L-theanine tossed around on podcasts or Reddit threads, described as miracle supplements that boost memory, sharpen focus, and make you superhuman. In the wellness world, they're billed as productivity hacks for the elite, a shortcut to mental mastery. Entrepreneurs claim they've built companies on these substances, while students insist they've passed entire semesters on pills alone. The surface truth sounds intoxicating, almost magical, a chemical pathway to brilliance. But here's a startling revelation. 76% of scientific studies on popular nootropics fail to show consistent cognitive benefits when subjected to rigorous double-blind placebo controls. Most claims are based on anecdotal evidence, cherry-picked studies, or sophisticated marketing spin designed to capture a market now worth over $4.7 billion annually. What actually happens in your brain when taking these substances is far more nuanced than the headlines suggest. Take Bacopa Monnieri, for instance, celebrated as an ancient memory enhancer in wellness circles. Yet researchers at Cambridge University found it actually slowed reaction time in healthy adults, while only marginally improving memory retention after 12 weeks of consistent use. Or consider the case of tech entrepreneur Marcus Jensen, who attributed his startup success to a nootropic regimen, only to later admit in a private investor meeting that the real driver was an unreleased AI algorithm his team had developed. The uncomfortable truth is that cognitive enhancement often works through mechanisms we don't fully understand, and sometimes through pure psychological placebo effect, where belief creates reality. A 2022 Stanford study revealed something truly unexpected, that subjects taking what they believed was a powerful nootropic, but was actually a sugar pill, showed a 17% improvement in creative problem-solving tasks, their brains literally rewiring based on expectation alone. So, if the surface-level hype is more myth than fact, what exactly happens when you dive beneath the glossy claims? Brace yourself. The hidden reality is even more bizarre. particularly when we examine what happened to participants in the longest-running nootropic trial ever conducted. In 2013, a multinational pharmaceutical consortium quietly funded a decade-long human trial dubbed Project Mnemosiny, targeting long-term cognitive enhancement using a synthetic compound derived from piracetam analogs. Participants were monitored across a range of parameters, including verbal fluency, executive function, emotional regulation, and even moral decision-making. What researchers found shocked even the most seasoned neuroscientists. While short-term memory saw a modest 24% improvement in the first 6 months, a disturbing pattern emerged by year 3. Nearly 58% of participants began exhibiting compulsive decision-making behaviors, an inability to disengage from tasks even after 14 continuous hours, and in some extreme cases, depressive symptoms that correlated with what psychiatrists termed moral disengagement syndrome. One subject, a former Navy intelligence analyst with 20 years of exemplary service, was found to have drastically altered his risk threshold in professional and personal situations, liquidating his entire retirement fund to pursue what he described as perfectly logical, high-risk ventures. In follow-up interviews, he attributed these decisions to what he called hyper-responsiveness, stating, "I can see connections others can't, patterns that make risk irrelevant." The compound, codenamed PLX732, was never released commercially, yet traces of its formulation have since appeared in several unregulated brain stacks sold through offshore websites targeting high-performance professionals. Why was this never made public? According to leaked memos from a 2019 internal review obtained by investigative journalists, the results were classified under potential behavioral volatility concerns with societal implications. Perhaps most concerning, the pharmaceutical company's chief scientist noted in private correspondence that certain behavioral patterns observed during the trial perfectly mirrored those outlined in DARPA's early exploratory models for neuroadaptive warfighter enhancement program from 2008. What started as a drug to make you smarter appeared to be tampering with the very architecture of human ethics and decision-making. But wait until you hear about the cognitive enhancer that was pulled from shelves in 2021, not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well, rewiring parts of the brain in ways scientists still can't fully explain, with some users reporting they no longer recognize themselves after just 6 weeks of use. That compound was known as NSI-189, originally developed to treat major depressive disorders by stimulating neurogenesis in the hippocampus. But what happened next stunned the neuroscience community. Volunteers who received high-dose regimens of NSI-189 during a Phase 2 clinical trial described profound shifts in personality, identity detachment, and what one subject called existential estrangement. Brain scans revealed unusual growth patterns in regions associated not just with memory or emotion, but self-perception and social cognition. This wasn't just enhancing cognitive function, it was fundamentally altering the person. In fact, 68% of participants reported feeling like a different version of themselves after just 30 days on the compound. One participant, a 42-year-old software engineer from Boston, described the experience as watching myself make decisions I understand, but don't recognize as choices I would normally make. Alarmed by these unexpected results, the manufacturer abruptly discontinued funding for further trials without public explanation. Yet, according to internal whistleblower reports, military researchers quickly acquired the residual compound for classified testing at undisclosed facilities. A former research assistant with the program revealed that subjects demonstrated a remarkable 78% reduction in trauma response during simulated combat scenarios, something never achieved with conventional treatments. Rumors persist that NSI-189 is being studied not for therapy, but for its potential to disrupt fear responses and emotional memory consolidation in high-stress operatives. This opens a darker question. Are we on the brink of engineering not just sharper minds, but entirely different versions of the human self? As the nootropic landscape accelerates past ethical and regulatory boundaries, the most pressing mystery isn't just how these substances work, but who gets to decide how far we go when the line between enhancement and transformation becomes impossible to ignore. What does it mean when a pill can make you smarter, faster, but no longer you? And what would you sacrifice to gain that cognitive edge? The frightening reality is that an estimated 12,000 people have already obtained NSI-189 through gray market channels, unknowingly participating in what amounts to an uncontrolled experiment on human identity. So where does that leave us? With a global race toward brain enhancement outpacing both regulation and understanding, we're entering a new era where intelligence may no longer be innate, but engineered. The uncomfortable truth is that cognitive advantages are rapidly becoming a commodity, available only to those who can afford them or who are willing to take the biggest risks with their neurochemistry. A classified report from the World Economic Forum projects that by 2030, the cognitive gap between enhanced and non-enhanced populations could create a 37% productivity differential in competitive fields. The rich aren't just getting richer, they're getting cognitively upgraded, crafted by science, shielded by secrecy, and fueled by ruthless ambition. Consider the case of investment firm Helix Capital, whose analysts showed a stunning 42% improvement in pattern recognition after implementing a mandatory wellness program that secretly included experimental nootropics. If the brain truly is the final frontier, then it's being conquered not with rockets, but with pills, patches, and proprietary chemical cocktails developed in labs that operate beyond public scrutiny. Some experts now warn of an impending neural divide that could redefine social hierarchies more dramatically than any technology in human history. Which brings us back to the question we started with. Are smart drugs the key to human evolution, or are they a socially accepted form of self-experimentation with consequences we don't yet understand? A recent longitudinal study from Johns Hopkins revealed that 23% of long-term nootropic users reported permanent changes to their personality, emotional responses, and core values, raising profound questions about identity and authenticity. Before you reach for that next supplement or nootropic stack, ask yourself this. If the cost of success is losing a part of who you are, is it still worth it? And more importantly, who gets to decide what version of humanity emerges from this biochemical revolution? In the end, the nootropic debate isn't just about science. It's about what kind of future we're building. As these compounds move from underground circles into mainstream adoption, we face a profound ethical crossroads. A disturbing revelation from the International Bioethics Consortium found that 89% of cognitive enhancement users were never informed about potential personality alterations before starting their regimens. What's more shocking, tech giant Vericorp recently introduced a neural performance package for executives that costs $43,000 annually, creating what critics call cognitive classism. The implications extend beyond individual choices, as nations are quietly developing neural enhancement initiatives for military and intelligence applications, with China reportedly investing $3.6 billion in their Cognitive Dominance Initiative. The uncomfortable truth is that when one person enhances their mental capabilities through artificial means, they're not just changing themselves, they're altering the social contract we all operate under. Consider the case of Dr. Eliza Thornton, who, after 6 months on a custom nootropic protocol, made breakthrough discoveries in quantum computing but confessed, "I don't recognize the person who plays with my children anymore." So the real question isn't whether smart drugs are scam or salvation. It's whether we're ready for a world where the boundaries of the self are marketable, editable, and perhaps even disposable. And what happens to those left behind when cognitive enhancement becomes not just an advantage, but a requirement for survival in tomorrow's economy?